Greetings, Boogie fans! Michael here, and in today's video, I will be covering 5 brand new Pokemon that I, along with many others, expect to make a big splash in the Generation 8 competitive scene. There's no specific ranking to these 5 Pokemon, and these are not the absolute 5 best. These are just 5 that I thought were cool and really strong and wanted to talk about. So don't forget to subscribe to my channel so I can hit that big 1 million sub mark soon, and let's dive into 5 OP new Pokemon in Pokemon Sword and Shield. The first Pokemon is one that you've probably heard other people talk about before because, dear God, this thing is insane. That being number 1, Dracovish. At first glance, Dracovish doesn't seem that amazing. While Water Dragon is really good defensive typing, its stats don't seem to be that incredible. Its best stat is its physical defense, which is only base 100, which is a bit low for a best stat, and then the rest of the stats aren't that far behind. It seems like a jack of all trades, but master of none type Pokemon. But what makes Dracovish special is that it possesses one of the most incredible and insane Pokemon attacks ever introduced, that being Vicious Rend. Vicious Rend is an 85 base power, 100% accurate physical water type move. Now at first glance that seems no better than Liquidation. However, if the user moves before the target, then the power of Vicious Rend doubles. As an extra bonus, Dracovish gets access to Strong Jaw, which gives a 50% power boost to all biting moves. And guess what? Vicious Rend is a biting move. So let's do a little bit of math here, just a little bit, I promise. If Dracovish moves before the target, well, it starts out at 85 base power, which is then doubled, then times 1.5 because of Strong Jaw, then times 1.5 because of the same type attack boost or stab. That makes Vicious Rend an effectively 382.5 base power move that's 100% accurate. And that's if the hit is neutral. If it's super effective, dear God, that is over 50 base power points higher than a super effective stab Hydro Pump. And Hydro Pump's only 80% accurate. It honestly doesn't even matter what other moves Dracovish can learn because the clear strategy here is just make it as fast as possible via the use of a Choice Scarf or Tailwind, and then click Vicious Rend and kill anything that doesn't have Water Absorb or Storm Drain. Before I move on to the next entry though, I should mention that all 4 Galar fossils have access to a move that has the same effect, where it doubles in power if the user moves before the target. However, I'm only talking about Dracovish because it's far and away the best of the 4. Arctovish also gets Vicious Rend, but it's substantially slower than Dracovish is, and therefore is gonna have a harder time being able to move first. And then Dracozolt and Arctozolt have an electric type version of the move called Bolt Beak. However, it's far easier to block an electric type move than it is to block a water type move because you can block an electric move with any ground type Pokemon, but to block a water type move, you have to have Water Absorb or Storm Drain. So the water type attack is just more generally better. All right, enough about Dracovish. Let's move on to the next Pokemon, which is one that I was actually wrong about in a previous video. That being number 2, Galarian Darmanitan. Galarian Darmanitan has an identical stat spread to its original form. Good speed, great HP, incredible physical attack, and garbage everything else. But what makes Galarian Darmanitan stand out more than original Darmanitan are its abilities. First, I'll talk about its regular ability, Guerrilla Tactics, which is basically a built-in choice band. It only allows you to use the first move that you select, but you automatically get a 50% boost to your physical attack. This is an excellent ability because while it is limiting, it allows you to get the benefits of a choice item twice. You're already locked into a move, so by tacking on another choice item, there are no extra drawbacks. The choice band can be used for absolutely absurd attacking power, and then the choice scarf can be used to make it so you're a hell of a lot faster. So that's one really good way to use Galarian Darmanitan, but its other ability, its hidden ability, is another fantastic way to use it. That being Zen Mode. If you don't know what Zen Mode does, it was around on Unova Darmanitan 2, and what it does is it causes Darmanitan to transform into its Zen Mode form when its health gets below half. And Zen Mode form has a higher base stat total and a different stat spread than original Darmanitan, plus it changes types. This is the aspect of Galarian Darmanitan that I was wrong about. In my video from a few weeks ago about the top 20 strongest new Pokemon in Sword and Shield, I talked about how Zen mode Galarian Darmanitan was not going to be viable, and I said that because I assumed that the stat spread change was going to be the same as it was for original Darmanitan. When Unovan Darmanitan morphs into its Zen mode form after it gets below half health, its base stats switch it from a physical attacker to a special attacker. This is trash. This forces you to either invest only in special attack and then you only hit hard when you're below half health, so it effectively halves your defenses, or you're forced to make it a mixed attacker, which causes you to spread your resources too thin and not be able to invest in any other stats and also take up move slots. Zen mode original Darmanitan is horrible. When I saw that Galarian Darmanitan got Zen mode as well, I just assumed that it would be a similarly bad change, where it switches it from a physical to a special attacker. Yeah, I was dead wrong. Zen mode Galarian Darmanitan gives Darmanitan 20 extra base points in attack and 40 into speed. It also becomes an Ice Fire type Pokemon, which is dope, and also gives Darmanitan a stab boost for Fire type moves. In other words, once the Darmanitan gets below half health, it becomes a faster and stronger Pokemon. The only downside is that its weakness to Rock goes from 2 times to 4 times, but it also gains quite a few resistances too, so I think that balances out pretty well. So yeah, I was originally wrong about Galarian Darmanitan. Both of this Pokemon's abilities are excellent and expect to see it used in both ways in a lot of competitive formats. The next Pokemon is one of my favorite new Pokemon in this generation, that being number 3, Falinks. Although, before I dive into the specifics of its battle prowess, I have a quick PSA, that being that Falinks is not a freaking bug. I understand that many people thought Falinks was some kind of weird caterpillar when they saw this picture of it specifically. That is understandable, I thought the same thing. However, when you see Falinks in motion, it becomes exceedingly obvious that this is not a bug. It is 6 adorable little soldier Kirbys who look nothing like bugs. I understand not immediately knowing that it's based on the Falinks war formation, but if you still think it should be a bug type after seeing the little guys move, well, you clearly live in some sort of location that has very different bugs than what I see around my house. Anyways, back to its battle prowess, because that is what I'm supposed to be talking about. Its base stats are nothing incredible. Its attack and defense are pretty solid, but the rest of its stats are middling at best. It does have access to Defiant though, which is an incredible ability, especially in doubles where Intimidate is a huge factor. However, what makes Falinks so impressive is its signature move, No Retreat. In exchange for not being able to switch out or flee the battle, Falinks receives an Omni Boost, meaning that all 5 of its boostable stats are increased by 1 stage. Getting an Omni Boost in 1 turn is fantastic. That makes it so Falinks can outspeed a ton of Pokemon it normally wouldn't. It boosts its physical attacking power. It bolsters its defenses. That is amazing. Yes, not being able to switch out is kind of a downside, but if it's late in a battle and your opponent has nothing left that can wall Falinks, or maybe it's an already short battle like VGC where there's not as much switching, well, I think it's gonna be pretty freaking amazing. I really hope Falinks sees a lot of use in the competitive scene because I think it's a really creative and really adorable Pokemon, and I would love to see it succeed. All right, so the first 4 were all physical attackers, so for this one I wanted to switch gears and instead talk about a special attacker. That being number 4, Polteageist. Polteageist has an interesting base stat spread. Most of its stats are underwhelming, but its special defense is really solid, and its special attack is amazing. What kind of holds it back is its speed, which is not horrible, but certainly isn't fast. However, Polteageist gets access to the incredible boosting move, Shell Smash. If you somehow don't know what that does after all of the generations that it's been a big deal, Shell Smash lowers the user's defense and special defense by 1 stage in exchange for boosting its attack, special attack, and speed by 2 stages each. This of course makes Polteageist a heck of a lot faster if you can get one off, plus it pairs nicely with its ability Weak Armor, which causes Polteageist's defense to drop by 1 stage every time it's hit by a physical attack, but in exchange, its speed raises by 2 stages. It has 2 reasonably solid ways to get around its middling speed stat. But another really awesome thing about Polteageist is that it has access to stored power, which is a special type psychic move that starts at only 20 base power, but gets 20 points added for every positive stat change the Pokemon has. So for example, if a Pokemon is at +2 physical attack, then their stored power would be at 60 base power. This pairs fantastically with Polteageist's weak armor and Shell Smash. If you use Shell Smash one time, stored power goes from 20 base power to 140, which is more powerful than a Stab Shadow Ball. If you use Shell Smash and you also get a weak armor speed boost in the same turn, then stored powers is suddenly 180 base power. It is incredible that this Pokemon has stored power, Shell Smash, and weak armor. These three aspects just synergize so fantastically together, and no other Pokemon has this combo. And now it's time for the final Pokemon, and since the first four were more offensive Pokemon, I wanted to talk about a really good defensive Pokemon. That being number 5, Galarian Corsola. And yes, Corsola, not Cursola. Galarian Corsola has stats that are almost the same as original Corsola. It loses 5 base points in HP and speed in exchange for gaining 5 points in both defense and special defense. However, it's still pretty underwhelming in the base stat department because its total is only a measly 410. But Galarian Corsola is so much better than regular Corsola because it can use an Eviolite. In case you didn't know, an Eviolite is a held item that boosts the holder's physical and special defense by 50% if it can still evolve. So regular Corsola can't make use of this because it can't evolve. But Galarian Corsola, since Cursola exists, gets the Eviolite boost, boosting its already fantastic defenses 50% each. This really outshines Cursola because Cursola's base defenses are only 50 and 130, both of which end up being worse than Galarian Corsola's with an Eviolite. Sure, Cursola does hit way harder offensively, but since it's so freaking slow, it's really only usable on a Trick Room team. Whirlpool lets it trap opponents that are walled by it and do chip damage. Nightshade allows it to have consistent damage output even though its attack power is lacking. Strength Sap is a great recovery move, especially when facing off against a physical attacker, and Will-O-Wisp is also of course amazing because burns are fantastic ways to get more chip damage and cripple physical attackers as well. While its regular ability Weak Armor doesn't pair well with its role as a tank, its hidden ability Cursed Body is substantially better. Cursed Body gives a 30% chance to disable the opposing Pokemon's move every time they use it, so if you've trapped them in with Whirlpool and maybe they're choiced, then they're gonna have to struggle. Galarian Corsola definitely matches up better against physical attackers due to Strength Sap and Will-O-Wisp, but hey, there's a lot of those out there and it's not gonna be bad against special attackers either. Overall, Galarian Corsola is going to be an impressive defensive force to be reckoned with, and it shouldn't be overlooked simply because it's not an offensive sweeper. So there we have it, those were 5 new Pokemon that I think are gonna make a big statement in the Gen 8 competitive scene. Let me know if you enjoyed this video and want to see the same format of video but with different Pokemon. And if you did enjoy this video, don't forget to subscribe. Thanks so much for watching, and an extra special thanks to my patrons on Patreon who are helping to support me in a way independent of the fluctuating YouTube ad revenue. If you want to help support me in the same way, the link to my Patreon is in the description below. If you want to check out my Pokemon Sword Let's Play on my second channel, MandJTV Plays, you can click right here. And if you want to check out some more fun Pokemon content on this channel, you can click up here. All right, that's all I have for now. So till next time, Poke fans, gotta catch them all.